And if you are not familiar with where you are, this is the Wahiawā Value Added Product Development Center. And we are a 33 square foot shared manufacturing facility or commercial kitchen, also an educational center. So the program that you're in right now is part of our multifaceted programming, from community workshops like this to free webinars that are posted online monthly to full courses for Leeward community students and beyond, and also industry courses to entrepreneurs geared towards scaling their businesses, to trade shows, et cetera. So the best way to follow along our program is to sign up for our newsletter on the website on vapdc.leeward.edu, or you can check with Kelsey behind. And I am remiss to miss our marketing specialist, Kelsey, who developed all of our designs, collaterals, all the beautiful social media posts. So with that, this is our, I don't know how many workshops we had so far. There's almost 10, I think. But this is the first of our Kalo series, or canoe crop series, featuring Kalo. And we have the honor to have Keliko and his family, Keliko Hoe, and I'll have you introduce yourselves. I missed the daughter and the son's names, but they are the family behind Waiahole Poi Factory, which is one of my absolute favorite places to go. How many of you have been there? How many of you have been to the Windward Mall new location? Yeah. So obviously we're featuring Kalo today, and I'll have Keliko give his short presentation about everything he would like to share about Kalo and the restaurant, the factory, and then we'll go into a short demo about Kalo and cooking and pounding, and then we'll actually have a hands-on activity to mix poi. And if you did bring our boards, I see a few, you're welcome to join in after we start the hands-on portion after the demo. And as always, we do have some tastings, and just sneak peek so you can stay hungry and thirsty for it. We do have luau stew, squid luau from the Waiahole Poi Factory to pair with your freshly pounded poi. We have luau stew made from one of our farmers that went through our Aina Tamekeke cohort. She made pork luau stew, so you have some options for the protein. I also made toasted coconut ice cream, not your halpia, but something different to go with kulolo. I don't know, do we have kulolo?
Yep, we got kulolo.
Okay, awesome. Just different ways to serve Kalo. And then, of course, the options are endless. And I will invite Keliko up.
Cool.
And yeah, and you can take it from here. Thank you so much for coming.
Hello. Thank you. Yeah, aloha. I'll start off with the oli. And this oli talks about some of the places on our side of the island, Ko'olaupoko, and mahalo to Wahiawā and the community out here for welcoming us. Nani Ko'olaupoko ki kaulana o nā paliuli, hele I tau apua kia I kana hele. Mo hala e nei nā puahi I le hua o lani O pulu ia na palai ka noelani, o laka aina I te wai, o la mai ka lewa mai, o laka lehu ka hana pono mai kai. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. Aloha. Akako. Yeah, my name is Keliko Hoe, and yeah, let me just introduce quickly our ohana. This is my wife, Hoku, sitting down over there. And then I got our two kids, Kahiva and Maile, right over there. And they're cleaning away at the Kalo right now. Kalo, when you pound Kalo, it's always usually best to pound it when it's still warm. Otherwise, it gets a little bit trickier to pound. And so we kind of wait to the last minute to clean it and get it on the board and start pounding. But yeah, mahalo to, I was trying to practice this one again also, the Wahiawā Value Added Product Development Center. That's a long one. I think even the acronym is kind of long to say too. Yeah. But yeah, mahalo. A couple months ago, we were lucky to get a tour from Haley and got to see the facility. It's just a very impressive facility here in beautiful Wahiawā. And and to me, the intention of it is very important. Basically trying to grow, process our own foods again. Yeah, because it's something that this is a tradition that we've come from, but we've lost it along the way. And so, getting back, and I know, we know that it's obvious that we need to do it, but actually putting things into place to do it is the harder part. So I really appreciate, all of the hand. I know there's many people that have been involved in getting to this point here, and it's really inspiring. So Haley invited to talk about Kalo, and since we're the Waiahole Poi Factory, say, hey, why not, man? Sounds good. So yeah, so we're Waiahole. No, I'm good for now. Yeah, thank you. And I'll just give a little bit. I just got some slides here to kind of share a little bit of the history. So there's a version of the Haloa story, the origin of Kalo in Hawaiian, in the multimedia presentation in the back too. This image here is one of my daughter's illustrations, and basically kind of captures that story of the origin of Kalo. And in the Hawaiian tradition, the Kalo was born from Wakea, who is the sky father, and Hohoku Kalani. And Hohoku Kalani, if you kind of look into that name, literally it means to cause the stars in the lani, or in the heavens. Yeah, and so you have, in a sense, you have the daytime light, the sun on the father's side, yeah, and then you got the nighttime, the stars on the mother's side. And the child that came from them was actually born stillborn, but when it was buried, from that place came the first kalo plant. And the name of that kalo plant was Halua Naka Laukapalili. And the name itself actually captures the plant itself. So halua, ha is like the stalk of the plant, and loa means long. So halua means a long stalk. And then naka laukapalili is referring to the leaf. So the lau is the leaf, and both naka and kapalili have the meaning of like kind of trembling. So if you ever, observe the kalo plant, it doesn't take a whole lot of wind, maybe just light wind, but you can kind of see the leaves are kind of going like this. And so that's the image that comes from that. And one of the cool things, I used to teach at Windward Community College. I know this is part of LCC's program, yeah. But I've told that story, of Haloa many times. But when I saw the image that Maile created, it really kind of struck me because, on the top part, you got the Wakea, so you got the Sky Father, yeah? But then on the bottom part, we got kind of the stars in there, and like, the universe type things happening in there. And to me, that was really a really unique perspective, I guess. That I had never kind of thought of that before. Of, in a sense, the kalo plant, when it's alive and growing, right? The lau part is sun facing, it's daytime, yeah. But when you think about it, the bottom part is mostly darkness. It's under the earth. So under part is total darkness, and so you kind of have that, the nighttime. But in a sense, in this depiction, it's below. Yeah, usually we think of the stars up there, but in this one, the stars are all, in the roots and where the action is, in a sense. So we got this, the story of Kalo, of course. I forgot to add the other piece. After the Kalo comes out from where the child was buried, there's a second child, and that second child takes the first part of the name, and that's Haloa. And in Hawaiian tradition, Haloa is our first human ancestor. And so basically, the relationship between Kalo and us as Kanaka is a very close relationship. It's basically our elder sibling. So, very, very important plant in Hawaiian society. And pretty much from the very beginnings, of Hawaiian society, we have Kalo. Haley mentioned that this series of presentations is about canoe plants, yeah? And, to me, that's one of the important things about Kalo is that, when you travel, especially when it's a very difficult voyage, yeah, which a couple thousand years ago, it wasn't easy. It's not like, I can get on Expedia and book my flight right to Honolulu. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And so what you take with you on that voyage, you need to think hard about. You got to be sure that these are things that you're going to need to have. And Kalo was definitely one of those main plants that throughout the Pacific, every time they took Kalo. And, along with other plants, of course, you have the other main starch plants that are taken in the canoe also. But Kalo was one of the main ones. And I think part of the reason for that is because, in a sense, you don't know where you're going to end up, yeah? If it's not a place that has been established already. And so it might be a nice big island like Oahu, or Maui or whatever, or it might be 1 square mile of atoll, yeah? And you gotta have life-sustaining food that either way, you're gonna be okay. And the Kalo is one of those types of foods because, in a very small area, you can produce a lot of food. And when you think about most of the, especially the starch foods, the energy foods, breadfruit, yams, Kalo, sweet potato, all of those things, all of those fit that criteria. It made sense for being able to feed people using a small amount. So I'm gonna move on from kind of the importance of Kalo and talk about the Poi Factory a little bit. So recently I got to check out the online archives for the local newspapers, the Star Bulletin and the Advertiser. Now it's the Star Advertiser right together. And I found all kind of neat things. So this one is a Waiahole Poi Factory advertisement, sold in better markets. I like that line there. Yeah, this is another one. Quality unexcelled, smooth and tasty, distributed everywhere. Waiahole Poi. This is a kind of cool one that I found. Waiahole Poi Factory, this is from the 50s, had its own bowling team. And it looked like they were pretty good too. Yeah, so right behind the Alley Cats and the Kailua Bowling Center itself, you had Waiahole Poi Factory. Some funky names in there too. Hound Dogs, the Wood Choppers. All right, yeah. This is a nice picture of, this is an employee of the Waiahole Poi Factory. I think this is probably in the 60s, holding up a couple bags of poi there. This is, I don't know if you can see it from where you're at, but kind of in the far left corner is the Poi Factory itself. And then basically, from that side, going towards Waikane and Hakipu'ukualoa side, towards the north basically, would have been all taro, yeah? And this is probably in like the mid 60s here, right about there. And basically, the Poi factory was originally built in 1905, and it operated as a full-on Poi factory all the way up until about 1969, 70, right about there. And at this time, when this photo was taken in like mid 60s, Waiahole was one of the last Oahu Poi factories. So you started to get, as population grows, you get less and less taro lands available. And so before that, pretty much every town, where we had people, had their own Poi factory. So Kaneohe had at least like 3 or 4 Poi factories just in Kaneohe alone. Waiahole, of course, had its one, but every place had their own Poi factory. But they start to kind of get less and less and less until, in 1969, when the Poi factory closed, it was one of the last ones. This is an advertisement for the auction. So when the wife of the original owner, their last name was Sakai, when she passed away, that's when they kind of folded it up and basically decided to sell. And they actually sold to Higashi Poi, who was from Kona. And he ran it just for a couple years. This I think is 68, I think. And he just ran it like 68, 69. And by that time, actually, the Poi factory is, or the taro lands actually are not producing poi anymore. And so, or producing taro anymore. And there's kind of a cool oral history given by the Taro Brand Poi, the owners of Taro Brand Poi. And they talk about, Waiahole being one of the biggest ones when they first started making poi. But then it kind of shifts over and makes a lot of sense because, everybody know where Taro Brand Poi is located? Anybody know? Where they at? Kalihi, yep. And specifically, I don't know what that street name is, but basically, what's right across the street from Taro Brand? Young Brothers. Yeah. And so basically, why are they locating there? Because pretty much from that time, most of our taro is coming from Kauai, Maui, Big Island. So it all has to be shipped in, in a sense. So that, it makes a lot of sense. There, yeah. So and you got all the things. You got poi barrels, cookers, taro hopper, poi grinder, poi blender. Yeah, I can use all of that stuff, man. Yeah. All right. So our family, my parents, enter in right about that time at the Poi factory. So in 1971, they got the lease. And they reopened it, but like this article says, Poi Factory enjoys a second life. They basically opened it up as an art gallery. My mom had studied art in college, and my older brother was just born, so she kind of wanted to do something that she could do and still watch my older brother. And he's kind of hard-headed, so just kidding. Yeah. So this is a picture of my mom on the left side, and that's her in the Poi Factory itself. That's where we have that's where we cook our luau now. And then on the right-hand side is my dad. You can't see his face, but he's pounding poi, and that's my older brother right on the side. And there, he's pounding with a cousin of mine, Kyoki Fukumitsu. Our family is a little bit more based in Hakipu'u, which is a little bit down the road from Waiahole. And that board was one of the boards that was passed on more in Kyoki's, our cousin's family, but that board at that time would have been over 100 years old already. And they still have it in their family too. All right, and this is advertisement. So basically they ran it as an art gallery in the 1970s. My mom did this logo, and even though they ran it as art gallery, there's always the connection to Kalo. And basically it's like a petroglyph of hand-pounded poi too, yeah. There, a whole bunch of different artists. They actually did probably one of the only times that this was done, but they did a show of ni'ihau shell lays. And I think they had like over 100 ni'ihau shell lays at the Poi factory, which today Like if you had to insure that, I'm pretty sure they would say, no, you're not having it at the Poi Factory. But yeah, but they did that show. They also, besides being an art gallery, they held culture classes. And so this is a picture of an article about Auntie Alice Namakelua, who was a well-known musician. She was also one of the top experts in Hawaiian language. And so she taught slacky guitar. She taught Hawaiian language at the Poi Factory. And this article is dated December 27, 1974. So my birthday is about 7 days before this. So I was born kind of right in the middle of all of this. So I good chance I was there someplace. Yeah. Some of you may be kind of familiar with the history of Waiahole, but in the 1970s, basically the valley was mostly owned by the granddaughter of Lincoln McCandless. And he was the one who got the water to the Central Plain area, this side. And so, but the water mostly came from Waiahole, Waikane, Kahana, you know, all of those valleys. And so in the 1970s, his granddaughter was basically wanted to develop Waiahole and Waikane and turn it into subdivisions. And so this is where the community basically registered their thoughts on that. And their thoughts was, nope, that's all right, pass. Of course, you know, they were bucking against pretty much most of the power, you know, centers in Hawaii at that time. And so it took quite a lot to say no against that. But they were actually successful, you know, and it was one of the first examples of, you know, in Hawaii of the community, in a sense, standing up against overdevelopment, you know, and standing up for perpetuation of agricultural lands, you know, and that was kind of happened right in the middle there. The Poi Factory itself at one point was the office for the WWCA, which was the Waiahole Waikane Community Association. So it was kind of right in there. And this picture, you know, was basically a protest against, is right on the side of the Poi Factory. So Waiahole Valley Road, yeah, this is about, I don't know, 1,000 people, kind of right in there. Yeah, and skip to color, and this is what we do today at the Waiahole Poi Factory. So we have your classic Hawaiian foods that you're gonna find at luau. You got the squid luau, you got poi, of course, kalua pig, lau, lomi salmon, chicken long rice, all of those things in there. And we also do both hand-pounded poi. We usually do twice a week, and we do milled poi also at the Poi Factory. And we've kind of become somewhat famous for our dessert, which we call the Sweet Lady of Waiahole, and that's kulolo and haupia ice cream. So that's my Waiahole Poi Factory commercial for now. But that pretty much kind of gives a little bit of history on the Poi Factory. Any questions at this point? Questions? Waiahole? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the pounding. And we got our two kids, Kahiva and Maile. So as I was talking again, they were cleaning the kalo. How's the kalo looking? Yeah, so we got the last one being cleaned. And we got our board over here. And we're gonna start pounding. And I can kind of give the play-by-play as we're pounding there. Just a little bit of background before what took us to this point. So the kalo itself came from, this one is from Kauai, from Waiole. That's kind of on the north side of Hanalei Valley, or a little bit past Hanalei to the north. And we cooked it um, when I do batches like this, 10 pounds or so, I like to use my Insta Imu. So we cooked it in our Insta Imu. I cook it for about just under an hour at the pressure, at the high pressure. Yeah, and that's usually good. So like the whole process, I usually allow for, I give myself a couple hours. It usually takes about maybe an hour and a half. It's about 30 minutes just to get to pressure, yeah, and then another hour or so to cook, yeah. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of kalos on there. If you're familiar with the kalo plant and how it grows, you got the original kalo that you planted, which is usually one stalk. And then, yeah, come close if you guys want to come check them out. And then the ones that grow around it, and we call that the oha. And these ones that are on here are mostly the oha. And the reason I usually will prefer to pound with oha is because the makua, or the original one that you plant, tends to be, if it's not harvested at the prime time, it tends to go like overripe. And when it's overripe, it's very difficult to hand pound. Machine grind is fine. It's not hard. I mean, it's the machine doing the work, right? But if you're hand pounding it, if you harvest it overripe, it's a little bit hard. Yeah. So, yes, kind of. So, to me, the quality of it, if it's overripe, it's like any fruit. It'll get like kind of sweeter smelling, the more sugary type of smell. And then the consistency is it's it's almost like a gelatinous, which is hard to pound. So it's not gonna have that, one word in Hawaiian we used to describe, it's called ulika. And it's kind of like it's hard to describe, like a graininess almost like. Yeah, it's easier to just kind of get, know the term, and then the feel of it, yeah, tells you, but yeah. Yeah, so what they're doing now, again, this is Kahiva and Maile. My kids, and they're pros. They get them, yeah. Yeah, so starting the pounding, this beginning part, you usually use what is called the kae, or the edge of your stone. And it's kind of like you're almost like cutting the kalo into pieces. Yeah, and it's just kind of rough pounding that. Getting it all rough pounded. So these stones, the one that my son is using, Kahiva, is actually from, oh shoot, I gotta write down his name. I gotta go look it up again. There's a Japanese man from Haleiwa that, like in the 50s, I think 50s, 60s, he was well known for making stones. And at that point, not too many people were making stones. So this stone was actually belonged to my dad's high school Hawaiian studies teacher. His name was Kilolani Mitchell, and he used to be part of the Bishop Museum. And he had this stone, and he actually gave it to my dad. So that one is probably from like the 50s, 1950s, so like, yeah, 70-something years old already. And then the other one is actually my classmate makes those. It's a much newer stone. That was probably like 2 years old now. Yeah, and so the older stone from Haleiwa, that one has a very flat bottom. The other one is more rounded. So it's just different styles of stones. Yeah. Myself, I like the rounded ones. Kahiva likes the flat one.
Where was this from?
Kauai and from Waiahole. Yeah, so Waiahole is like right on the edge of Hanalei Bay, the northern side. Yeah, and this farm, they do all organic Kalo, and it's excellent Kalo.
Are you guys growing any?
We grow a little bit, but not enough to supply what we need right now. Yeah, yeah, we're trying to increase that. Yeah. So basically, once you kind of rough pounded it, so my son's one is a little bit part of it's at the stage that we would call moku moku, and what that means is like moku means island, yeah. And moku moku means that they're all still kind of like separate pieces. So there's like separate islands in a sense. Whereas Maile's one is pretty much to the next stage, which is what we call pipili. So pipili means that it's all like sticking together. So once it's kind of sticking together, then you can start to pound. You can do more kui, like a kui action. Yeah. And the reason why you gotta wait for that is if Kahiva started to do that already, because they're separate, they would start flying off the boards, which you don't want. Yeah. So you kind of notice too that Maile is dipping her fingers in the water and then kind of slapping the stone, yeah? So the purpose of that is to keep it from sticking. So it's kind of keeping your stone clean, and then it's also keeping it from sticking to your hands and the board itself and everything. But one of the, if you ever pounded poi, you kind of know that one of the main challenges is that stickiness. So you don't want it to stick, so that's why you put the water. But the flip side of that is you don't want to add too much water too soon, because if you add too much water too soon, what happens is it'll become kind of like real loose, and the lumpy parts that you want to pound and get smooth are going to slip out when you pound it. So it has to have a certain amount of grab when you're pounding it. So that's why, when they add water at this stage, they're not like coating everything. They're just adding a little bit of water, just enough. Yeah, so the goal with pounding poi is basically to try to get it all one consistency. Yeah, all one smoothness, basically. And yeah, it's coming along nicely. There's kind of three people that I learned from. The first was my dad. You kind of saw in the picture, not real often, but we would pound, and that was kind of my first influences in pounding poi. Later on, when I was closer to these guys' age in college, I got to learn from Uncle Eddie Kanana, who was from Miloli'i, and he came from as a younger person pounding poi pretty much every week, So I got to learn a little bit more of the technique from him, and then later on, I learned some more from Uncle Earl Kapa'a, who is from Halawa Valley on Molokai. And same thing. So Uncle Earl, came from a family that pounded regularly in Halawa Valley on Molokai. And especially Uncle Earl, he taught a lot of the terminologies with pounding poi. And he continues to teach it. Did anybody take his class? You guys took his class? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Uncle Earl's campaign, one of his campaigns, I think he has many campaigns, is one of them is a board and stone in every home, which I think is an excellent vision. Yeah, we just passed New Year's, so had a lot of news stories this year, really cool, about mochi pounding, yeah. So it's actually very similar to mochi pounding. The process is real similar. So you kind of notice when I've observed people pounding mochi, the first part they're kind of doing like this, yeah. And oftentimes they're kind of moving around. I got three or so people, and same thing, So you got to get it to all kind of stick together first. So that first part is just kind of like getting it grinding, and then they start doing the more pounding type action, yeah, yeah. So a couple of differences I usually like to point out between mochi pounding. One is that the materials are the same. Yeah, so a lot of people, the bowl is made out of stone, and then the mallet is made out of wood. So it's kind of like flipped, in a sense. But then one of the differences is that for mochi, you gotta have at least 2 people, yeah. So one person is doing the pounding, and then the other one person is doing the flipping part, and then the water too. They're adding the water. Same thing. You gotta add water to otherwise it sticks too much. One of the main things about poi, as opposed to taro, kalo, yeah. So if you cook kalo, you cook kalo and cook a bunch of it, you pretty much gotta eat it within a couple of days, because it'll start to rot. Basically, it'll start to rot. But if you pound it, that same kalo, if you pound it into poi, now it'll sour. And so you can stretch that same amount of food out for like weeks instead of days. So again, resource-wise, which all island people are very aware of, it makes a lot of sense, because basically what that means is you only got to cook in imu every couple of weeks, as opposed to every couple of days, and all of that resource that goes into cooking that, it can be kind of stretched out, over that time. How's it look? Pretty much the kind, yeah. So the pounding part of it is pretty much finished. The next step is going to be to start to work in water. So you kind of change now. Whereas before this, they were just putting a little bit of water at a time. Now that you're kind of more actively working the water in, and you're getting it a little bit more. This is kind of like what today a lot of people would call the pa'iai stage. So this is kind of like before you've mixed in a whole lot of water. It's very thick. It's very mochi-like now at this stage. And then, if we're moving more towards poi, basically you're getting more fluid, more water inside of it. So just a kind of a side note, Uncle Earl Kava'a from Halawa Valley on Molokai, he would actually call pa'iai like maybe about 10 minutes before this, at least. So what he said was that pa'iai is kind of right when it's kind of rough pounded and sticking together, but not fully pounded. And what he said was that, the reason for pa'iai before was so that you would prep it to transport. So if you're gonna go visit somebody or take poi to your family across the island or whatever, you'd pound it to pa'iai, wrap it up, and then you take it to wherever you're gonna go. And then when you get there, you finish the pounding there. And to me, that makes a lot of sense also, because, otherwise you're just carrying the water, and it's heavy. So, you might as well just fill up the water on that side.
Everyone had at their house.
And they got it at their house, yep, And just a few more minutes of pounding and then ready to go. So this taro is moi taro, and so Kalo was critical in Hawaiian society before, and still today too. But to me, one of the things that shows that how important it was is the varieties. So traditionally, we had over 300 different varieties poi, of taro. And, you know, to me, that tells you that it was critical. Yeah, because they knew that, okay, if I get only 2 varieties and I get disease that affects both of those, you had it, right? But if you need to have it, you know, if it's a must-have, you're gonna develop as many varieties as you can, so that, you know, okay, maybe 10 varieties are susceptible to disease. You still got your other couple hundred, you know, that are good to go. So like, you know, I see the same thing in like in South America. Sweet potato, you know, it's not just 5 different types. They get like hundreds of sweet potatoes, you know, because it's important, you know. Yeah. But yeah, we still have about 80 varieties of Hawaiian taros that are grown, and that's just Hawaiian. You know, there's taro is around the world, all throughout Asia. Africa is actually one of the biggest producers. I think like Nigeria, one of the biggest producers of taro.
Do you just prefer moi to make poi, or?
You know, I kind of use the answer that for that question. You know, what is the color that I prefer? Uncle Jerry Konanui, he's passed away a few years ago, but you know, he was like an expert at the Kalo varieties, and he would always get the question, which is your favorite variety? And his answer was the one on the table. And I kind of agree with that. You know, especially today, we cannot be super picky. You know, we take almost any color that we can get. There's certain ones that are going to be, you know, better for pounding, especially. Moi is a really good all-around taro. Yeah, so it's definitely, you know, if we got moi, good solid moi, we're good. You can kind of see the fluidity, yeah, is getting more and more. So it's a different kind of texture now. And then if you're actually pounding it, you really can feel that there's a feel to the different texture.
How about the color? We see the ones at the market, like really purple.
Yep, exactly. It's a variety. So you get all kinds of different colors. Yeah, you get the purple, more purple, reddish, pinkish ones. And then you get even like yellow, even like green colored taros. Oh yeah. So the moi is kind of like a more lighter color, kind of a grayish. Yeah. Yeah. So they're pretty much good to go already.
What was peak production? Do you know what peak production, how many pounds were made?
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good question.
Do you
But
think it was pre-contact? Or
yeah. Oh yeah, pre-contact. Yeah. Because I mean, I don't think taro was at any point a huge export. So mostly everything would have been for here, mostly. Yeah. But you know, I mean, the population estimates, you know, go up to 1 million plus. So kind of close to what we are today here. But all the food was here, you know, and not all taro, but a good chunk of it was taro. Pretty much any place that could grow taro was taro lands. Yeah, and then a second usually would actually be sweet potato. So like Niihau, they weren't, you know, didn't quite have enough water to do taro, so they did more sweet potato. Yeah.
is there a certain variety of poi that is the best for making poi?
Yeah, so most Hawaiian varieties you can make poi. Yeah, when you start getting outside of Hawaii, um, like you know what we usually call Chinese taro, you know, like the ones with the purple specks in it. That one, you know, excellent for chips, excellent for eating, you know, and taro cake and all of that, but not so good for poi. It's a little bit more on the grainy side, so it doesn't make the kind of gumminess. Yeah. Of this one, yeah. But other than that, most Hawaiian varieties have that kind of gumminess. It's almost like the difference between sticky rice and not sticky rice. You know,
Like you can substitute it within ingredients.
it's a different,
or,
yeah, it's a different,
textures.
right, yeah. So this is the pounded poi, and basically I'm just gonna kind of demonstrate the mixing. Pretty simple. It's not rocket science or anything like that. But couple of things. So one of the things usually with poi, you don't want to mix in too much water too fast. So you want to just kind of like little at a time, yeah. And so I'll usually put maybe, this is maybe I would guess 3 pounds of poi, 3 or 4 pounds of poi. I'm just gonna kind of put a little bit of water there, and then basically you're just kind of working the water in and kind of like squeezing it. You're just creating surface area, yeah, and it starts to kind of absorb. Yeah. And then how much water you mix in, in a sense that's up to you. What kind of consistency, and you kind of the more that you do it, the more you kind of know. Of course, one of the rules of the game, I guess, is that you can very easily put water in, but you cannot take them out. So so that's one part of kind of doing it and getting the feel of it. So people who if you mix poi a lot, then you kind of know, okay, when to stop. Yeah. And then one thing, with poi too, it's you almost always traditionally are souring the poi, but like everybody kind of has their own microbiome and whatever, yeah. And so one thing that people kind of say is that like there's oftentimes certain people in the family, especially if they're making a lot of poi for a big group, they only allow certain people to make the poi because if some people mix the poi because of whatever microbiome they got, the thing will sour too fast, and usually they call it like they got a bad hand or something like that. So yeah, especially if it's like like a big luau or something where there's a lot of riding on that poi, they're particular on who actually mixes the poi for them. But if you're just mixing for yourself, whatever. You just gotta know, what yours. And so, kind of getting to a nice consistency here. Yeah, I might stop adding in here. And then sometimes I'll just kind of, usually, this is a little bit small for me. So usually I have almost totally full. And then I can kind of just easily grab part and then just kind of do this. And then, by letting it flow down like that, I kind of know what the consistency is. And for me, this is a good consistency right here. It has a nice flow, which is good. But then when it comes down, it's still kind of like standing up a little bit, yeah. And that's, to me, that's a good place to be with the poi. And then with poi, there's a little bit of the way I was taught to kind of clean most of the poi from your hand is you go from one side, and you kind of go like this, and then there's like a little bit left there. But get most of the poi in there. And then the other kind of traditional thing with poi, whenever you're kind of finished with whatever you're doing, whether it's eating it or mixing it, you do what you call kahi. You kahi the poi. So kahi means, it's actually got kind of like a couple of different meanings, but one meaning of kahi is to like to scrape. And so basically what you're doing is you're just kind of cleaning up the edge. So right now I'm taking most of the poi off of my hands. It's pretty good. And then when you kahi, you're just kind of like going around and bringing the poi. That's the other meaning of kahi, means one, yeah. So you bring it all into, instead of being kind of like on the sides like this, you're bringing it down together. Yeah. And that's pretty much there. All right, and I'm gonna taste test this one. Oh. Excellent pounded poi. Excellent pounded poi.